2 teachers, 1 practitioner. 2 contradictory answers on how to chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. In the comments beneath one of our videos, a longtime practitioner named the exact problem. One teacher told them to slow down, another told them speed was the whole point. Neither one mentioned faith. Sound familiar? If you've ever paused mid-chant, wondering whether your pace was somehow wrong, you already know this feeling. Here's the plain answer. Pace was never the deciding factor. Neither was pitch, posture, or breath. Nichiren Daishonin never prescribed a single correct technique for chanting Namu Myoho Renge Kyo. Not the speed, not the tone of your voice. His own disciples chanted with different voices, different habits, scattered across different provinces, and none of them were ever corrected on how they sounded. So if pace and pronunciation aren't the test, what actually determines whether your prayer works? That's the real question underneath the fear you might be carrying right now. The answer sits in his own words about the voice itself, and it's not what most teachers tell you to focus on. No timer required, no official pitch. Just a promise most of us have never actually heard him make in his own words. He wrote about the voice directly. It's its own teaching, inside a text called the Ongi Kuden, his own recorded words on the Lotus Sutra. January of 1278, Nichiren was 57 years old when he gave this teaching to his closest disciples. Kyo is the language and voices of all living beings. The commentary states, the voice does the Buddha's work. This is called Kyo. As the great teacher Chant said, the voice does the Buddha's work. This is named Kyo. Namu Myoho Renge Kyo is indeed the Supreme Sutra. Ongi Kuden, Volume 1, 1278. Read that again. The voice itself does the Buddha's work. Not the pitch of it, not the volume. The voice, simply used, is already doing something. The instructions that survive around this teaching add one more line. Sincerity is what carries the benefit. Sound has nothing to do with it. Sincerity. That's the word he chose. He returns to this same point in another letter, the Hokke Daimokusho, his treatise on reciting the title of the Lotus Sutra. If someone did not know the real meaning of the Lotus Sutra and did not understand its import, but merely recited the words Namu Myoho Renge Kyo once a day, or once a month, or once a year, or once in 10 years, or once in a lifetime, without being tempted by evil deeds, great or small, would that person not only avoid the 4 evil realms, but also achieve that stage from which there is no return? Answer: he would. Hokke Daimokusho. Read the question again. Someone who doesn't understand the meaning, someone who chants once a year. His answer is a yes. He explains why with an image every parent already understands. When a baby drinks milk, it has no understanding of its taste, and yet its body is naturally nourished. The 5 characters of Myoho Renge Kyo are nothing other than the intent of the entire sutra. So, even though the beginners in Buddhist practice may not understand their significance, by practicing these 5 characters, they will naturally conform to the sutra's intent. Hokke Daimokusho. The voice does the work. The milk still nourishes whether the baby understands it or not. Mechanics were never the test. Something else determines it. That's what comes next. Buddhist teaching has a name for treating technique like it's the test. Jiriki, self-power. It's the belief that your own effort, done precisely enough, forces the result. The opposite is tariki, relying on a power greater than your own technique. Nichiren addressed this directly in a letter called On Attaining Buddhahood in This Lifetime. He warned against searching for the mystic law somewhere outside your own life, and said plainly that chanting without real faith turns practice into empty labor. So, which one has your fear actually been serving? The fixation on getting pace or pronunciation exactly right. Is that faith? Or is it self-power wearing faith's clothes? In a separate letter, reply to Nietzsche, he goes even further. It is the heart that is important. The strategy of the Lotus Sutra. 5 words. That's the whole test. Your heart is the whole test, regardless of pronunciation, pace, or whether you understood every word you just chanted. There's one place in his own writing where he never offered this same flexibility, and it's not the place you'd expect. That's next. The one thing he never left flexible is the word itself, Namu. Look at the center of a Gohonzon, exactly as he inscribed it by hand. The characters read Namu Myoho Renge Kyo, not Nam. A viewer named Goji wrote to us directly. At a fast pace, he said, it isn't possible to pronounce the U in Namu, so it becomes Nam. Our answer was simple. A pace that drops the U is a signal to slow down, not a reason to accept the shorter form as settled. Slow down enough to say the whole word, and the clarity comes back on its own. There's no need to rush a sacred word into something smaller than it is. Some organizations have simplified the pronunciation over generations for the sake of a faster group rhythm. That's understandable. It's also not what's written at the center of the Gohonzon, and it's not what fills Nichiren's own letters. Here's why this isn't an exception to everything you just heard. Getting the word right isn't a technique demand. It's the same sincerity reply to Niike already asked for, carrying the words exactly as they were given. Here's the invitation. Slow down once and say the whole word. We've covered the pace question before and the pronunciation question before that. This is the thread underneath both of them. The mechanics were always negotiable. The word he gave us was not. That's the whole shape of the answer. Everything flexible and one thing that isn't. Held as an act of the same sincerity this whole video has been about, nothing more. So here's what actually changes tomorrow morning when you sit down to chant. Nothing about your pace has to change. Nothing about your posture has to change. The fear does. Remember the practitioner from the beginning of this video, caught between 2 teachers giving 2 different answers? The answer was never in either of their instructions. It was in the letter he wrote about a baby drinking milk without understanding what it tasted like. It was in 5 words. It is the heart that is important. Sit the way that lets you breathe. Chant at whatever pace keeps the words clear. Say Namu, the whole word, without rushing it into something smaller. Let your heart carry the rest. That's it. That's the whole instruction manual he actually left us. If what you just watched changed how you think about your own practice, there's a place where this kind of teaching continues past this video. On NMRKOB.com, supporters who join as a vow keeper receive the full Ongi Kuden passage on the voice, in English and in Nichiren's own Japanese, to sit with in their own time. This is a way of staying close to the words themselves, the same way this whole video has been asking you to. Sincerity is the only way to chant Namu Myoho Renge Kyo.